Hare Krishna, and welcome again to this Wednesday morning Bhagavatam class, Iskcon, Oslo. And we're keeping our Srimad Bhagavatam reading going. So we'll start with the prayer, and then we'll continue. Today we have a small audience, so that's very nice. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Kasyacha Deshatarine Namaste Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Kasyacha Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Right. So this morning we are continuing in the first canto, second chapter, the 8th verse. Right. We'll do the invocation, few of the invocation mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right. Okay, so we're turning to the pages of the Bhagavatam, and the idea with these Wednesday morning Bhagavatam classes is that we do not do any preparations. We just read on the go, trying to keep it fresh and see whatever comes out from the book itself. Right, so the Sanskrit is as follows. Dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvakshena kathasuya nutpada yed yadi ratim srama eva hikevalam. Translation. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. The gross materialist, who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body. To the gross materialist who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body, there is nothing beyond the senses. Therefore, his occupational activities are limited to concentrated and extended selfishness. Concentrated selfishness centers around the personal body. This is generally seen amongst the lower animals. Extended selfishness is manifested in human society and centers around the family, society, community, nation, and world, with a view to gross bodily comfort. Above these gross materialists are the mental speculators who hover aloft in the mental spheres, and their occupational duties involve making poetry and philosophy, or propagating some ism with the same aim of selfishness limited to the body and the mind. Above the body and mind is the dormant spirit soul, whose absence from the body makes the whole range of bodily and mental selfishness completely null and void. But less intelligent people have no information of the needs of the spirit soul. Because foolish people have no information of the soul and how it is beyond the purview of the body and mind, they are not satisfied in the performance of their occupational duties. The question of the satisfaction of the self is raised herein. The self is beyond the gross body and subtle mind. He is the potent, active principle of the body and mind. Without knowing the need of the dormant soul, one cannot be happy simply by emolument of the body and mind. The body and mind are but superfluous outer coverings of the spirit soul. The spirit soul's needs must be fulfilled. Simply by cleansing the cage of the bird, one does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself. The need of the spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and the spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead. There is a dormant affection for God within everyone. Spiritual existence is manifested through the gross body and mind in the form of perverted affection for gross and subtle matter. Therefore, we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagements that will evoke our divine consciousness. This is possible only by hearing and chanting the divine activities of the Lord, and any occupational activity which does not help one to achieve attachment for hearing and chanting the transcendental message of Godhead is said herein to be simply a waste of time. This is because other occupational duties, whatever ism they may belong to, cannot give liberation to the soul. Even the activities of the Salvationists are considered to be useless because of their failure to pick up the fountainhead of all liberties. The gross materialist can practically see that his material gain is limited only to time and space, either in this world or in the other. Even if he goes up to the Svargaloka, he will find no permanent abode for his hankering soul. The hankering soul must be satisfied by the perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service. End of the purport. So the verse again, Dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvakshena kathasuya nutpadayed yadi ratim srama eva hikevalam. Translation. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Machakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Mukham karoti vachlam pangum langayate girim yat kripatam mahamade Sri Gurun Dinatadam. Right, so we're back with the Bhagavatam and continuing our wonderful reading. And this morning, Srila Prabhupada, through the words of the Bhagavatam, really goes, he takes out his chopper. Srila Prabhupada's guru, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was known for his special technique of preaching, the chopping technique. So if you can envision something as gross as a butcher. Now, for the butcher to cleave the carcasses of animals, he uses a chopper, like an axe, like something in between an axe and a knife, and he chops, and it's very sharp, and even bone will be splintered, right? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was known for his chopping technique in his preaching, uncompromising and very direct in his approach. And and it seems to me that and Srila Prabhupada, he caught on to that mood of the spiritual master, and I'm feeling that this morning it's really coming out in this purport, where Srila Prabhupada is undressing the material viewpoint, and the basic punchline is that it's just useless labor. So that is a strong indication of what society in this day and age is really centered around, right? It's all just useless labor. And that may seem, maybe, to be kind of like harsh language, a very strong statement. There are many wonderful things. There are hospitals where the sick and wounded are treated. There are programs for the poor and neglected. I remember years ago working as a nurse in a sort of like street level clinic. We would invite all the prostitutes and drug addicts and give them free health care. So these seems like, of course, very wonderful activities, really helpful activities, merciful activities, and society, although spends quite some time, effort, and money for these programs. Although, of course, we see now that some of these programs are also now diminishing somewhat. But anyway, and then we hear this, that this is just so much useless labor. And why? Why is it? And the reason why is that the soul is neglected. The soul is neglected. And if one can say that the soul is neglected, then this indicates that the soul has needs. Now, that is very interesting, and it is also indicated in the purport that the needs of the soul remains hidden to the general mass of people, the only way to uncover the real needs of the soul is through the message of the Bhagavatam, right? The message, it's even said in the verse itself, the message of the personality of Godhead. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has a message which he wants to broadcast to all the souls in the universe. And it's also described here that a person has different layers of existence, right? So one layer is the body. So we are now sitting here. You can see me. I have a body. I'm a male. I'm a little bit old and gray-haired. And I'm covering my body with different garments, not to run around naked in the winter country of Norway. That would be precarious and also very embarrassing. Maybe most of all for others. Anyway, so there's the bodily reality, and we see, and it's said here that human society centers around the family, society, community, nation, and world. And although these things, like we mentioned earlier, can certainly be helpful in many ways, they do not at all pertain to the soul. This is the outer covering, right? And then there's the level above, sort of a deeper level to reality, which is the mental sphere. So there, and it's even said here, mental spheres. So there's different mental spheres. There's unlimited mental spheres, right? And mental speculators, their occupational duties is making poetry, philosophy, or propagating some ism. So isms are very popular. If you ever, I mean, I try to avoid it, but if you ever watch the news, you can see that there are many different isms. And the problems with so many different isms is that they're always in conflict. There is communism and socialism, and then there's capitalism, and different, many different isms, and they come into conflict, and the reason why they come into conflict is given here, that they're speculating, right? They try with their own individual brain power, or maybe collected brain power. They sit around. Imagine they sit around tables and discuss, and then they might agree on some ism, and then another place there's another table where some other people are discussing and they've agreed on another ism, and the two isms cannot agree with each other, and there's a conflict. And although conflicts certainly can be resolved in different ways, we see that unfortunately many times it results in violence, right? There is the conflicts turn into wars or quarrels or fights. So these two levels, as they are sort of described here, they're not so pretty. I mean, these are bold statements. Prabhupada even ends this paragraph with less intelligent people. So they're not so intelligent, although they may have a PhD or maybe a general or admiral's degree in the military or in the Navy, but they're not so intelligent. Why? Because they have no information of the needs of the spirit soul. So there's an even deeper level, the level of the soul. And as the body has needs, you have to nourish it. You need water to cleanse it, and water comes out, and whatever sustenance you put in comes out. The body needs sleep, right, to rest and recover. And in the same way, the mind has different needs. It's a known fact of psychology that the mind has a need for positive feedback, right? To have a healthy, sound mind, you need healthy relationships. You need positive feedback. You need care, and what's that? TLC, tender love and care. Everyone knows. Or else, all these things like loneliness and depression are very detrimental to the mind. The mind can, in the same way as if you neglect the needs of the body becomes ill, it becomes sick. And in the same way, if you neglect the mind, the mind can become sick. And these are problems. And then in the same way, the soul has needs. So, and these needs are unknown in our day and age to people in general. And however, the needs of the soul are known. I mean, the needs of the soul do exist, however unknown today, and information can be gotten about them in the same way as one would, let's say you want to investigate the needs of the body. You might become a personal trainer or a nutritionist, or the needs of the mind, you might become a psychologist. And then you would have to study for many years to understand the needs of the body and mind. And in the same way, to know the needs of the soul, you have to study. You have to somehow acquire the information. It's given, however, it is locked behind an educational system, right? And the main book for uncovering the needs of the soul is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're now somehow trying to educate ourselves in, and we're getting some information. Even in this one verse in Srila Prabhupada's purport, it is said that there is a dormant affection for God in everyone, right? It's dormant. The soul is described on the material level. The soul is described to be sleeping, right? There's this like a poem written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and one of the lines is Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bola. So the soul is sleeping. Wake up, sleeping soul, wake up. So we're sleeping, and we need to wake up to reality. Gaura Chandra Bola. Lord Chaitanya calls. He calls us. And his calling is the message. He calls us with the message of Godhead. He is himself. It is known that Lord Chaitanya is himself Sri Krishna, the darling son of Nanda Maharaj. He has just come in our day and age in a special form, a golden form, to wake us up to reality, wake us up to the needs of the soul, our needs. We are souls. We are souls, and there's a need, and Prabhupada says that whatever it comes up in the purport, that even though the needs of the body and mind can be taken care of nicely, even there will still be a hankering, a dissatisfaction, and that is because the soul is dissatisfied. The needs are not met, and that is the goal. The goal of life is to come to the point where one can start nourishing the soul little by little. Imagine if for a long time you've been starving. You've been starving for a long time. Let's say you were passing through a desert of the material world, and you've been starving, and then suddenly you come to an oasis, right? And there's water, and there are palm trees with dates and fruits. Now, it is known that since you've been in a starving condition, you must be a little bit careful when you start to take new nourishment, right? You drink little by little. You take little sustenance. The body has to get used to it, right? So in the same way, little by little, step by step, we should start the nourishment. And in the language of the Bhagavatam this morning, it is said here that we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagements that will evoke our divine consciousness. So there are actually real physical and mental activities to be engaged in. It's not something very mystical. It's not something like a puff of smoke or a ghost. No, these are real activities. Engagement both for the body and mind. However, because they are linked with Krishna, there's an approach towards Krishna. Then although the body and mind are used as the vehicle, as the tool, then because they're linked with the soulful needs, they will have this spiritual effect, although seemingly engaged on the material plane. So this is very interesting. One might think that one has to become a yogi, right, and just go to the forest, Nurmarka, right, go to the forest and engage in austerities and just neglect everything, forget everything, don't take part in anything, right? Stop breathing even. Just stop breathing, stop your mind, the flow of the mind. Although this is certainly a process, as we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita, it's not even the highest process. There's even a higher process. There's even a higher process where one can approach with this yogic process. One might achieve the Pramajyoti effulgence, or perhaps for the very exalted yogi, he might come to the level of communion with the Paramatma. But there's even a higher level, the level of the personality of Godhead, the person behind Paramatma, of whom the Pramajyoti is his effulgence, right? His bodily effulgence. So that is Sri Krishna, and interestingly, the process for approaching him directly is in a way so much easier. Let's say you wanted to approach the president, the prime minister of Norway. So he's in the country of Norway. He's all-knowing, right? He's the super soul. He knows everything that goes on. He has his finger in everything. You know, on his approval, things happen. So, and you might want to approach him. Now that is not so easy, right? There's maybe some applications, and you know he's locked up in his office, and he's not so easily available. There's a whole process, right, where you have to really go through it, and be cleared in different ways before you could approach him. However, if you went to his home and knocked on his door, right, it would be different, right? You would no longer address him as Mr. Prime Minister. It would just be Jonas. Hey, Jonas, may I come in? I brought you some sweet and a flower. Patram pushpam phalantoyam. I brought you just a small leaf, a salad, some water, a flower. Would you like? And then he might find that to be something very nice, right? It's more personal. It's more direct. And all the applications and the clarifications, they immediately disappear. Right? So so if you want to approach the person behind it all, right? Behind the, under the suit, under the tie, suit and tie, that is the way to go, and that is that is the way of devotional service, and it's so easy. It's so ridiculously easy in a way, and it's mentioned here. This is possible only by hearing and chanting. So imagine you're outside his door. Jonas, oh Jonas. Eventually he comes, right? So and it's given here in the Bhagavatam. I mean, imagine the needs of the soul is hidden. No one knows. And then here in the pages of the Bhagavatam, not only are the needs, the need is described, the need for a connection with Krishna, but the process of connecting is also described. It's hearing and chanting. The transcendental message of Godhead. Hearing and chanting the divine activities of the Supreme Lord. So this morning we were chanting a little bit, and now we're somehow approaching the Srimad Bhagavatam and trying to read something about the message. And there's a wonderful verse in the Bhagavad Gita, a part of the 10th chapter, where I don't remember the Sanskrit now. I'm not a pundit, unfortunately, but where the Lord displays his opulence to Arjuna, and seeing the incredible display of power and opulence, Arjuna becomes afraid, right? And he begs the Lord, no, come back, right? But in that, beholding that display of unimaginable, universal power and influence, Arjuna prays to the Lord, and his prayer is very simple. What is your mission? I want to know about you. Right? So there's a mission. The Lord has a mission, and that is the mission of the Lord is the interests of the devotees. And the mission of the Lord is very simple. He wants to reclaim the fallen spirit souls. Somehow, we're here in the material atmosphere, and we lost our connection. Right? The Wi-Fi is down. There's no connection. We cannot access the universal information of Sri Krishna. So the connection is broken. And then the Lord's mission is to reestablish the connection for everyone on a personal level. And that is the interests of the devotees. They themselves, by the grace of Guru and Gauranga, in this day and age, they have been granted access again. They're reconnected, and then they see the need of the Lord, the desire of the Lord to reconnect others, so that they might be nourished. They're starving, right? There's no nourishment made available in this world. there is nourishment, always. There is a spiritual backdrop to life, right? Devi yesha gunamai, mama maya duratyaya. Devi, right? There's the world, right? There's this wonderful book Srila Prabhupada wrote, Life Comes from Life, right? Life is spirit. So this world, in essence, has a spiritual foundation. And previously, in previous ages, this was more accessible. It was more widely known. Of course, in Kali Yuga, everything has become covered, extremely covered, so that the access is not so easily available. And then Lord Chaitanya comes to reawaken, rekindle the spiritual sparks and give them nourishment so that they might come back and become and reactivate, right? Now the soul is dormant; it's just sleeping, and we have to wake up to reality, and that is the message of the Bhagavatam: to wake us up, and reinstate us into our natural position as small sparks of fire connected to the great blazing fire of Krishna. And there's just like a fire, if you ever went to the woods and make a fire, right? You have to reapply, right? You have to feed the fire, especially in the wintertime or in the autumn or spring. You're in the woods and you're sleeping outside. You want the fire to go on all night, so you have to keep feeding it. It's part of the satisfaction of the woodsman when they're out camping, to keep the fire going all night. And the only way to do it is to keep reading the Bhagavatam, and we're doing it, and we're just trying to feed the fire. Now it's been kindled, and keep on with the hearing and chanting, keep on the reading, and it seems, I think, the only sane conclusion, even from this purport this morning, is that there is great hope in this devotional service. We can be confident, and it's a step-by-step process. Like Prabhupada would say, it's a gradual process. It's not an immediate process. It's a gradual process. So whatever difficulties may arise due to the body and mind being unsatisfied, that is all right. That is all right. There's a deeper level. It was said, where was it? Yes. Either in this world or in the other. There is no real. He will find no permanent abode for his hankering soul, right? So it is the spiritual approach. It's the only way, and the beauty of it is that although one connects on a deep spiritual level with Krishna, the body and mind is included. So there's no real worry. The body and mind has a purpose. We don't have to be afraid. It's a gradual process. All one has to do is sort of come to terms with one's own progress and sort of one's own pace, and just keep going, knowing well that Krishna will carry us through. Whatever we are lacking, he will carry, and whatever we have, he will preserve. And of course, the prospect of death is there, but everyone knows we all have to come to terms with that. And then, behind the veil of life is Krishna, and he will protect us if we just turn to him, keep the connection, and don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Let's keep going. Right. Maybe, since we have a small audience, is there some questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu?
I forgot.
Maybe it was not so important.
It was not so important.
Something?
No, I mean, we can always, it said here that, actually it's the last sentence, the hankering soul must be satisfied by the perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service. However, elsewhere we learn that, the soul doesn't have any hankerings. The soul, is already, satisfied even. Or is it true? Or what, how can you understand this?
Well, maybe this spiritual duality of the complete and satisfied soul and the hankering soul, maybe that is an indication of this achintya veda aveda tattva, that within the realm of spiritual activity, right? It's said that there's this one nava rasa, right? Newer and newer. So imagine you do something and you're satisfied. However, the next second, you want more. There's a dissatisfaction within the satisfaction, right? Again, it expands. You thought you knew Krishna. You thought you were having fun, right? The gopis were dancing with Krishna and enjoying. And then they're, it's the greatest time of their lives, right? It's wonderful, and Krishna is there, and he expands, in so many forms as there's devotees, and he's holding all their hands. Each devotee can hold the hand of Krishna. Each devotee can be embraced by Krishna, and it's so wonderful, and they're just completely satisfied, and then he disappears. Right? He's gone. And then they go from, they go from blissful state to complete distress. Where is Krishna? They try to search him out. They can't find him. But it's not that their distress is any less relishable than their happiness, right? But it takes on these two different forms, right? Which seem to be in conflict, or seem to be contradictory, yeah. But they're not, really. So maybe this can be an indication that although Soul is the pure spirit soul is Atmaram, right? He's he's just satisfied in worshiping Krishna. There's nothing needed. But yet there is this eternal hankering of actually never being really satisfied, because Krishna is always expanding, newer and newer, and
the soul has to follow that.
has to follow, has to keep up, right? Keep up the pace.
I was wondering also that sounds like an effect of yoga maya. And as far as
Yes.
I can understand, you always have to be in the one of these two mayas, either Mahamaya or Yoga Maya. So under Yoga Maya, then necessarily there will actually be hankering. And I have the impression, that these are things like in the Bhagavad Gita, that the peaceful soul, nasochati, nakanksati, there is no hankering, there is no lamentation. That is more kind of preaching to the impersonalist, but also wants to gain
Going, Prabhu? Can you wait 1 minute? I have a gift for you. I'll just conclude this and I'm coming. 1 minute. Ek minute. I have a gift for my friend, and although we could speak unlimitedly on the Bhagavatam, we'll continue off stream, Prabhu.
Definitely.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki